vibration and envision your chakras spinning perfectly, balanced, open, from the bottom of your spine to your crown chakra above your head. You are in perfect balance. Your cells are dancing in joy. Your thoughts, your feelings are healed. And fully present in this moment. Place your attention and your focus in your heart center. As we honor and give thanks to all fathers. And if you choose to place your hands over your heart, you may do so. Your mind's eye the energy of your Father. And allow yourself to gaze gently into His eyes. Sending this vibration of love, appreciation, and gratitude from your heart to His. If there are any unhealed or unresolved issues, allow yourself in this moment to set each other free, to forgive and know that all is divine. Give thanks to our Father in heaven. We are grateful for the totality of unconditional love that is continually offered to each and every one of us. lessons learned, and the gifts given. Holy Spirit, Mother, Father, God, may we go forth in the spirit of forgiveness, of peace, of love, choosing to be fully present in every moment. We choose to see the world in its beauty and perfection. We open our hearts, we open our minds, willing and ready to be led in love in every moment. We place our future in your hands and know that all is divine and perfect. So it is. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Heidi. That was fantastic. And, you know, it's all about forgiveness and knowing that all is in divine and perfect order, and sometimes it's hard to see it that way, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But last week, Peggy, who's not here, a lot of people are traveling this week, I just realized. Dottie's in Myrtle Beach with Suzette and Laura, and Linda's on vacation, and Catherine, a few other people, I just realized that. And so, anyway, good for them, and we bless them on their journey as well. But Peggy had given me this book, and it's called Plato and Platypus Walk into a Bar. And it says, Understanding Philosophy Through Jokes. And Peggy, you know, I really appreciate everybody forwarding me jokes. You know, it was so funny. Yesterday, there was some gal, I'd never met her before, but she had watched, I guess she watches the talks on video on our website, and she was like, oh, I love that joke when you were talking about the golf cart that rolled over. And I was like, well, that's, you know, so at least my jokes are making an impact. So got that going for us. But anyway, this one is about illogical reasoning. And it says, illogical reasoning is the bane of philosophers, but heaven knows it can be useful. That's probably why it's so prevalent. And it goes on to say, an Irishman walks into a Dublin bar, orders 3 pints of Guinness and drinks them down taking a sip from one, a sip from the next until they're gone. He then orders 3 more, and the bartender says, you know, they'd be less likely to go flat if you bought them one at a time. The man says, yeah, I know, but I have 2 brothers, one in the States and one in Australia. When we all went our separate ways, we promised each other that we'd drink this way in memory of the days when we drank together. Each one of these is for my brothers, and the 3rd is for me. The bartender said, wow, what a great custom. And the Irishman becomes a regular in the bar and always ordered that way. One day he comes in and orders 2 pints. The other regulars notice, and a silence fell over the bar. When he comes to the bar for his 2nd round, the bartender says, please accept my condolences, pal. The Irishman says, oh no, everyone's fine. I just joined the Mormon church and I had to quit drinking. We can thank Peg for that. There you go. That's funny. But I guess his brothers hadn't quit yet, right? But anyway, well, as we talked about earlier, the Theo event yesterday was really transformational and very confirming of what, you know, we all talk about on a regular basis here at the center, and, you know, how we can be in the world amidst the suffering and the pain, but also be above it. And it really is, it is possible. Peace is possible. If we're waiting for peace to be based on conditions, we're never going to have it. That's just a fact. And what I may deem is what I would like to see for peace, you may not think the same. So, you know, we're all different. But the one thing that is true is that regardless of what's happening, we can overcome suffering in the world, truly. And so I want to talk a little bit about different philosophies and thoughts that support this. And last week, to say the least, Orlando had a tough week. The first thing that occurred was that young gal was shot by a fan and killed. She was, I think, on The Voice. And just point blank, she signed an autograph, boom, right there. And then last Saturday evening, or early Sunday morning, in that gay nightclub, there were 50 people who were massacred. And 50 more who were, 50 were killed, and about 50 more were injured seriously. And then a few days later, the alligator attack at Disney World, which was, you know, it's like, wow, what, we were talking, you know, a couple of people, it's like, what kind of cloud was over Orlando last week? And, you know, it's very easy to get caught up in that, in the pain and the grief and the anger and judgment of whatever. And there's certainly been a lot of thoughts from all over the place. And, you know, let's blame this one. It's a gun problem, it's a this problem, it's a that problem. And, you know, everybody's very strong in their opinions and views, and we got to do this, and it's like, no, we don't do that. And I actually, I thought I was doing something nice, and I posted on Facebook, you know, this is, you know, compassion goes out to everybody, and let's really, I choose to let Spirit guide me through the processes, how to proceed, and be in love, and so on and so forth. And, you know, most of my Facebook friends are like, yeah, right on, and it's all love, and we just blast them with love, and it was all good. And then my brother entered the conversation. He had a little different viewpoint than I did. And it was interesting, and boy, he got some people around here fired up. I mean, people were like, is he really your brother? Someone said, family reunions must be a hoot. You know, but his perspective is, let's just say, probably as opposite of mine as you could get. We'll just say that and leave it there. And, but it is based on separation. and someone to attack, someone to kill off, someone who's less than, not worthy. And that is, you know, a bigger belief out there than maybe we even realize, that belief in separation and judgment and hatred that still exists. And, you know, I saw something that was very beautiful, and it was in New York City. 200 Muslims came together and had a prayer vigil for the Orlando victims. And it was really so touching and beautiful, and they were standing on the side of love. They weren't, there was no separation, it was about oneness. And, you know, for me, I guess, and everyone I know here and talk to, you know, we are in a place of hope and possibility, and knowing that love does overcome everything. It will. There's no way that love can lose. And I ponder this a lot to say, wow, how can some people still be in that belief of such hatred and anger? And so I choose to build on what we're here about, what the Namaste Center's about, which is love and seeing the world correctly. Well, you know, this is, I believe the world we see is, we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are, number one. So if I see the world in conflict and pain and suffering, then I have to come back and look at it within my own mind, the enemies, and Theo supported that as well yesterday. The terrorist is in each and every one of us. It's in our minds. And so it's about healing our own thoughts about it, blessing those who are choosing to be, I would say, in fear. My brother is an example. It's fear. It's fear-based, and he has a deep, deep-rooted fear that Muslims are going to take over and kill us all. They want us all gone, and that's supported by a lot of people. So I'm not angry at him. I didn't get charged this much by it. I did have to close down the page because it did get a little carried away. And I'm like, this is not stirring me up, and it's stirring a lot of people up. But we gotta understand, if we're in a vibrational universe, that the more I get in this defend attack, you know, I'm perpetuating the situation. And so the greatest gift we can offer is to stay in our hearts, stay in peace, be neutral, blast love. Those who are choosing to be angry and aggressive and separating, those people need love more the most. They really do. And I'm not saying by any means not to deny that these individuals and their families, they're going through major pain. I'm sure they are. And we can only imagine, I think, for ourselves, what that must be like. And it's got to be extremely painful. But then again, the greatest gift we can give is that of just showering with love and blessing and support. And so we really need to begin to question every value, every belief that we hold. And where is that anger and hatred still in my heart? And every time I heal that and choose to take responsibility for it, like the Ho'oponopono says, the forgiveness prayer, it's really saying that I'm choosing to see the world differently. And no matter what anyone else is thinking or blasting out there, that I can stand for peace. I can be in love. And so we're all one. I don't think anyone would come to the Namaste Center if they didn't really already know that at some level, that we're connected to all things. We're not separate. And everything is an opportunity for healing through forgiveness. And so one thing we really can maybe take into our hearts is that although there are people out there that may not think like we do, that we don't have to agree on anything to be kind to one another. And because we're all going to have we do have different ideas about things in here. Some people like meat, some don't. We'll just start with that one and leave it at that. But that doesn't mean the vegetarians or the meat eaters are bad people. It just means that, you know, it's a preference. But what happens when we attach a charge or an emotion to that, saying, well, anyone who eats meat is bad, and or whatever we get charged up on, that's when we have to take responsibility and say, no, that's my judgment, my projection. And so there's a lesson in the Course in Miracles, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And that's such a powerful one. I don't have to really even build on that, because if I'm defenseless, then I'm just standing in that sea of love, not projecting any emotions of good or bad, just being neutral and defenseless, and I'm safe. That's the safest place I can be. If I believe I need to defend or attack, then I'm not safe. I don't believe I'm safe because I'm afraid, bottom line. And these teachers who came to earth, I'm going to use two, for example, Jesus and Buddha. They came here not only to, they came here to teach. They came here as master teachers to show us what's possible and potential in all of us. And the cool thing is both of them overcame suffering. And I think we understand Jesus overcame suffering, the whole crucifixion and hanging on the cross and the story that led up to that could have been perceived as a suffering moment or two. I personally don't believe that there was suffering. I believe he transcended that in his mind and in his heart. That was just the role he played for all of us. He overcame death. That was really the great message. And Buddha overcame suffering as well. And, after Buddha, as we know, he was royal and wealthy and lived in a little enclave of where everything was perfect. I mean, you can only imagine it was just probably a beautiful, huge estate, and, there was always food there, and all of his needs were taken care of, and everything, it was perfect. It was like heaven on earth. And one day he went wandering out of the compound and saw that the rest of the world didn't live that way, and had his first glimpse of suffering. And that sent him on a quest for wow, not everybody has it like I have it. So his quest, which was years of contemplation and meditation, when he came out of that, his first sermon after his enlightenment centered on what the Buddhists call the Four Noble Truths, which are the foundation of Buddhism. And the four truths are the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth at the end of suffering, and then the truth of the path that frees us from suffering. And it basically, I'm going to talk about these Four Noble Truths because they are powerful in their teachings. And, we don't have to suffer anymore. We've got all the tools we need. One thing that Theo was talking about yesterday is decision. Make a decision. Make a decision. We have to make a decision that we want to be at peace, that we want peace in the world, that I'm no longer going to be pulled in and sucked into this event or that chaos. I'm going to rise above it. And so it says that the first noble truth, often translated as life is suffering, and many people new to Buddhism tune out as soon as they hear this. But the word dukkha also refers to anything that is temporary, conditional, or compounded of other things. Even something precious and enjoyable is dukkha because it will end. So, the suffering is only in the temporal. We think that that this situation, we always hear, this too shall pass, right? So we think that, oh, this is terrible and it's going to go on forever. But all your past except its beauty is gone. Only that which is eternal is real. You want to know the difference between illusion and reality is it eternal or not? And the truth of who we are is that eternal self. We're changeless, formless, and eternal. And our true self is totally unaffected by anything. And it doesn't mean we're not compassionate. It doesn't mean we're not compassionate beings. It doesn't mean that we're not loving and caring. Actually, we're taking loving and caring to a higher level, because we're standing in that knowing and demonstrating that, yes, in this situation there is suffering. But the truth of those beings, the truth of who I am, is perfectly fine and okay. So we need to really focus on that. That's the greatest gift we can give to this world right now, is that gift of knowing within ourselves. And then, the cause of suffering, really the second noble truth, is the cause of suffering is craving or thirst, the desire, we want this. And then we sit there and I'm suffering because I don't think I have enough money, or I don't have this relationship, or that person doesn't like me, or I want this job and I don't have it, etc., etc. And, seek but do not find, because you know what? It's not out there. I had a little discussion last night with the Sheila and Marcus, and I've come to a place where I'm not a big goal person. I have no clue what my future looks like or what I want, because I know that there's a plan much greater than anything I can imagine that is unfolding if I just get out of the way. So my desires and wants, they're not all gone, I'll be honest, but they're way less than they used to be. And I think that if we can just know that we are so much greater than anything in this world, and I've shared this a number of times, but it bears repeating, because A Course in Miracles says, imagine the greatest thing you can imagine in creating in this physical reality, whatever that may be. And you multiply that by 1,000 times and 1,000 times again, and it's not even a glimpse of what heaven is and what Spirit is waiting to offer us, shower us with. But we keep, jumping from this to that. So that second noble truth really is saying the same thing, that suffering comes from wanting something out here. And there's nothing out there that will even touch the truth of who we are. And so the third truth here, it says that when we give up useless craving and learn to live each day at a time, enjoying without restless wanting the experience that life offers us, patiently enduring problems that life involves without fear, hatred, and anger, then we can become happy and free. So it's letting go of that wanting, I want this to be different, I want to have all this, to be different. Yeah, I think if we, just said, well, of course, nobody wants to see these mass killings. I mean, that's ridiculous. It would be wonderful if everybody had plenty of food to eat and a nice shelter and things, whatever. Isn't that a wonderful concept? And maybe that will happen and maybe it won't. I don't know. And that's not really my business to know. And does that mean I'm not participating in making that happen? Not necessarily. I think we are our brother's keeper, and we're here to support each other in that process. But I have to let go of my own wanting and craving of something to be different in the world. And I do find on the flip side of that, that when we allow ourselves that gift of letting go of our wants and desires and our cravings, then we are naturally more tuned in to service and wanting to serve, because then we know there's no separation between each other, and we are interested in everybody experiencing love. So you don't want to gather all this for yourself, but rather just live more from a place of knowing that we're all one, and we're here to share everything that I am and everything that I have. Use that for the greater good of all, and whatever that looks like. And Spirit will lead us to exactly where we need to go and what we need to do and say and to whom, and how much money to give here, how much time to give here, make a cake for somebody, whatever. You just become more naturally tuned in. So it doesn't mean that we become self-centered. It means that we just become more healed, and then we're more available for being a presence of love on the earth. So we really, the path that frees us, the fourth truth, it says the Buddha as a physician, it says in the fourth truth, the Buddha as physician prescribes the treatment for our illness. The Eightfold Path. Unlike in many other religions, in Buddhism there's no particular benefit to merely believe in a doctrine. Instead, the emphasis is on living the doctrine and walking the path. So the Eightfold Path is actually the next step that was actually sort of like tools for awakening, okay? So I'm not sitting here telling anyone to be a Buddhist or not be a Buddhist, it's all great. There's so many great opportunities out there for us all. But I do take heed to the statement here, whatever path you're on, walk it. Who we are speaks louder than anything we can teach or say. We're really, we're about demonstrating God's love, not just talking about it. And sometimes a path, I know Theo yesterday spoke a lot about meditation. That's a wonderful way. Yoga, nature, we're all unique beings. Just tune in and find that which brings you peace and expands your heart opening and build on that, but get into a practice and a dedication. It says the Buddha consistently taught that it is wise to look after oneself and one's own spiritual progress as long as it causes no harm to others. So, it's an inside job. We're here to heal and fix ourselves and not be so needing to place blame and fix this, fix that. Those who see themselves as whole make no demands. I really get that that's a statement from A Course in Miracles. The more healed I am, the less I'm tempted to get into judgment and those things that separate us. So self-responsibility is huge. I mentioned earlier the Ho'oponopono, again, a prayer for forgiveness and taking the responsibility for everything I see into my own heart. That this world is completely my own imagining, and I can change the way I view it and thus change my experience. And of course, if I take the charge off, we're all going to live more from love. We're going to be compassionate, but we're going to be detached compassion. That's a huge thing. A lot of times this whole idea of people wear I'm an empath, I'm empathetic, like it's a badge of honor. And I think that true empathy, and this is so huge, is knowing that yes, there is suffering, there are people who are hurting. In our community, we hurt, but we see each other. But the greatest gift, the true empathy, is recognizing the suffering, but not joining it, not taking it on. That's not how we heal it. If I'm taking it on because there's something not healed in myself. So I see the world in its perfection, recognize that there is suffering, be compassionate, but we don't have to take it on. And so I love how do we pronounce his name? I don't even know. Do you all know who he is? I recite stuff from him a lot because he's so cool. And anyway, he's a guru guy. He looks like a guru. He's got the beard and the beads and the white. He's cool, But he's a good teacher too. And what he says about true empathy and detached compassion and all of what we're talking about, he says, only those whose mind have been cleared from the ego sees things as they are. And as things truly are, there is perfection. Only such a one could be said to be a truly universal meaning, universal in understanding and in perception. Everyone else belongs to a tribe of a thinking culture. Only the one who is empty of concepts or free from the hypnosis of personal identity and conditioning is liberated, or is the Buddha. Such a one is free from the illusion of managing existence. They have no strategies nor any inherent fear. They move in harmony with the universal being. This is a mortal body, but the immortal and timeless being is dwelling inside of it for a while. Find out who you truly are while your body is still warm, and be happy. So I love that. You know, it's really, you know, laying down the ego. All of these concepts and ideas that we have about life and living and trying to figure it out, it's really a waste of time, ultimately. And if we could just, you know, open ourselves up to trust and be led, there's way more power in that than anything the world has to offer us. We just have to have that faith and trust and confidence that that is the truth. But I do believe that's the truth. And if you look at Muji, you can just see happiness on his face. I mean, that contentment and